Okay, so I'm just gonna keep going. Welcome again, keepers of light, and I call you that because you are just that, keepers of light. So there's some noise in the background, but I'm gonna keep going because that is kind of like the theme of where we're all at right now, that we have noisy backgrounds. Now, this is obviously an analogy, like a metaphor, to that which I am considering, what I am experiencing, um, presently speaking, like in this 3D reality, is I've been experiencing what I would call noise in the background. And one of the main capacities that we have at this period of time is to be able to still move and still function within the chaos. So I am going to just keep moving forward, and I wanted to touch upon some of the changes that I've been experiencing here on this particular Keeper of Light awareness portal, and what it has evolved into, and what it is that I am working on now in terms of really kind of giving you guys the, let's say, coordinates, giving you guys the coordinates of where I am, and presenting to you, like, within that, what that constitutes. And it would really be kind of, looking back to giving you the overall picture of where I'm coming from and where I am now, and then also to where the future, what the future kind of looks like. Now, this is a linear way of me depicting, what to look forward to on this channel, if you are kind of following along in terms of how how the evolutionary process of it has been. I first came on here just channeling and not really even wanting to be in front of the camera, and then now working my way to this period where now I am in front of the camera and speaking to you directly in this way. But what I am seeing is that eventually it's really expanding to that point where a station of light has and is evolving and emerging from this whole process. And how I want to explain that to you is that feels like the entire of the experiences that I've had here have now been integrated through me, and which is why there has been this pause in terms of me coming on here. It really is because I had been putting together all of the pieces that I had fragmented, and these are fragmented pieces of how it is that I'm perceiving the reality here. And you've seen bits and pieces along the way, and how I've come through with the channeling, and also with the light language, all of the different ways in which I have come through on this channel have been depictions of the many layers to that which constitutes what I would, if I were to, put a word to what my identity would be. Not the entire of it. I don't necessarily think that anyone can completely demonstrate what the entire complexity of their beingness is. But what I aspire to do is to become more and more open to community, more and more open to creating emerging structures that are really now in the process of developing through not just me, but us together. What I've come to know is that all of the work that I've been working on prior to even coming on and starting this channel, all of my experiences have now, this is kind of like, for lack of a better word, but they've amounted to a map of reality, and not just a map of reality, but a map of reality as it exists as a function of coherence. And coherence itself is really my way of defining what would be, what what lies before, what is beneath narrative, and what exists in neutrality as the existence of reality, which is really constituting looking at the structural form of reality in that way that becomes more navigable, because now we are not standing in the way of movement, given that narrative itself has that way of introducing within it components that make it harder for the human system to remember its main basic functioning. So sometimes I kind of feel like I'm rambling, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. There are ways in which I am now finding myself in the brink of coming through personality-wise that I had not and had suppressed in the past, just given the experiences that I have had, causing my entire structure of beingness to figure out how to adjust when because of the I'm going to slow down. Because of the compression and the density that we are all existing in, we all are existing within the same field of reality, which itself is a field that compresses. And depending upon what it is and how you are naturally structured to function, then there are going to be differences in how your nervous system adjusts to being in this environment. But what is happening now is that the environment itself is itself changing. Now this has to deal with not just the people themselves changing, but also the earth, and also how the earth is being affected by the entire the cosmology of what we are all like in. I mean, we are affected by the sun, the central sun, the other planets that we don't ourselves even human beings haven't necessarily become cognizant of. All of that factors into the, let's say, like the ecology, the ecological environment that we are in. And right now there are changes happening, and though it is not something that most people would be talking about, in that way that you'd be talking about the weather and checking the weather, it is still really as important factors to register when we're having conversations about how it is that we will now be proceeding, just given what we are all being confronted with, which is that there's shifting and reorganizations like happening within the structures that we are in. Now, I want to begin by just begin. I already began, right? So I'm going to say that I started a new page, and it is it's called the Station of Light, and it's a playground for keepers of light. So that's really the title of the page, and it is connected to this page, but I kind of had to do it that way because I wanted to introduce the architecture of the many of the functions that I see when it pertains to what I had mapped over time about what the functions are to who we are that is below the narrative, what I kind of mentioned earlier to this discussion here. I wanted to create a separate playground area where keepers of light and any sort of like-minded individuals who resonate with this material can come and tune in, not just tune in terms of like learning anything new, This is tuning in terms of now offering what it is that you are here to offer to the structure of the station of light. Now, the station of light, what it's kind of felt like to me, what it's felt like, I felt like, now when I think about it, like if I were to give you an analogy, it kind of felt like I'd have been in the garage, working on this new, let's call it like a new machine, like it's a completely new and unique machine that I knew was always, well, what it is it's the different fragments and the different pieces of understandings and integrations that I have come into, that now formalized into an actual living structure. And I've kind of, my lifetime has been, or could be depicted of as like a series of events that were, that could be described as being like, working on all the pieces of the machinery, not kind of knowing like how the pieces fit together. So over time, it was and had always been my journey to explore all the different ways in which being human, and how being human, when we're looking at being human from that level, the two levels of, particularly the narrative level, like that was really like the hardest part. And I think that's the hardest part for any of us that we have to contend with, is the inherited narratives that we all live through without necessarily feeling as though we have the capacity to either create new narratives, which I'm not saying people don't. I'm saying a lot of people do that. However, if those narratives are now being considered the supporting structure to reality itself, then there's a misconception about what reality is really made up of in the first place. So what I kind of have been doing this lifetime is mapping. I've been mapping all of the different ways in which I am, and I say it this way because with emphasis, because I have to acknowledge that there are other architects like me who exist and who have been doing their own mapping, who may now very well be entering into this particular station of light, or be introducing their own station of light at this period of time, because there seems to be what I am seeing is a convergence happening where all of the functions are now being unveiled, because again, we're having help, like we're having ecological, from the standpoint, ecologically speaking, we're having help with, the entire cosmic field itself lending a hand to us in terms of, kind of peeling back the layers of distortions that have been the operating mechanism to which we had built our reality. And now when we peel that away and we're looking at structurally, what constitutes continuity, like what constitutes time, what constitutes space. We're kind of looking at the core elements of the makeup of reality itself. And this is a subject that really has always been like the very this has been a topic that has really interested me my whole life, because it is my function to reintroduce and to revoice this particular type of way of perceiving reality to those keepers of light and those who arrive within my space and this field, who arrive with I think that was a B, who arrive, so I'm here to welcome all of the keepers of light who have been kind of sitting back to, especially you guys who really just been with me from the beginning, where you kind of, you've seen me come on here looking all nervous. I know I still do. yeah, you've seen me come here repeatedly, and I myself have and don't always know what it is that's coming next, or what's coming through me that's next. But what I am seeing now is that this journey, I'm not supposed to be on this journey by myself. Like, I am here sharing the architecture, the map that I have seen. And when you come in through resonance, because you will feel and you will kind of see what it is that you see in the playground. And again, the playground is kind of like it's a metaphor, first of all, but at the same time it is a way of introducing material at that level where it can be received without distortion. So when it comes to what I have built, it is an architecture which does not necessarily lean upon the ways in which we have been leaning upon in terms of creating visibility, which is performance based or performance based material, and that doesn't necessarily look at the truth or map the truth of a concept before allowing it to be what it is that now is being distributed to the population. So I wanted to welcome you to the Station of Light. I'm welcoming you so in that way that we can now explore it together. I created it as much as I could, as much as I could put into it, which is really my function, which is to really reveal what has become legible to me that seemed to have been hidden. It wasn't necessarily hidden, it's just that most of the focus of attention wasn't necessarily on it. But somehow, I was born and incarnated into this existence to notice those particular aspects. Somehow, that is my function. And I no longer am denying that there is a component to all this that makes me a centerpiece, but not necessarily the most important piece, just the centerpiece. The person who announces like, hey, you know what, there's a party over here, whatever it is, and then you all come, and when you all come in, then you all will know what your roles are. You will come to discover what it is that is your function, not necessarily that you're reserved to just one function, but that there is like a flow, and that there is connectivity within the functions, that when we are now coming from having remembered what those functions are, minusing what the narratives, minusing living from merging to the narratives that we were conditioned to live through. Once we now connect back into the natural way in which we are meant to engage with one another, which is more neutral based, it's not based upon all of the many ways in which we are now seeing constitutes for the struggles that we're all having as humanity is having right now. When we're all coming from our natural functionings, and by the way, no one is really reserved to just one function. For me, like, and you will see, like, when you finally do go and see the page, that I've laid out a image of all the different functions. Not that I've named all of them. There are many more functions that likely I haven't seen, and I'm willing and open and actually looking forward to the naming of new functions, if there are any, to be named in this period of time or in a future period of time. The idea is that I've laid out this map, and you can go take a look at it. I've also laid out a website. It's not complete. It is still in a working process of unfolding as we are speaking. If you are called to resource the website, then there are links to my Ko-fi page where you can donate, and it will kind of help expedite things for me, just in that I'll be able to send the funds over to the web team so that they can get some of the material that I haven't had the opportunity to yet to resource into unveiling within the station of light. But you are welcome to taking a look at the page, and then eventually how this will play out. The way that I'm seeing it is that there is emergence that develops when there are like-minded, well, I can't say, I don't know if it's like-minded, when there are resonant functions that come together without the well, there's always emergence, but there is a more sustaining, more continuity-based emergence that occurs when a group of people, I want to say people, but a group of functions come together without the addressing of distortions. When that happens, then we are in effect kind of coming together. We are coming together to unveil what it is that now is itself becoming visible, or what was always. See, the thing is I don't want to give the impression that what we're doing is like creating anything new, because we're not necessarily creating anything new. Everything that, even when I'm now describing or using the word emergence, it's not necessarily referring to like, oh, now we're just now coming up with new ideas. No, what I'm referring to is that we're remembering what was always there. We're remembering that there was always, and there has always been, continuity. We're remembering that there was always, and there has always been, stability. We're remembering that there is always, and that there always was, in a sense of eternal beingness within us. And we're connecting back into that, and we're remembering that. And the process of remembering it then constitutes an emergence. It becomes legible to us. It becomes visible to us. What was always there, what was always functioning. We leave the world of the mind and narrative, not necessarily by trying to avoid narrative, because obviously I'm here talking to you guys, so it's not necessarily that I'm abandoning narrative, but we are engaging narrative in that way that does not engage those ways in which we are assuming that narrative is the basis to reality itself. That we're engaging our ways of being in terms of the understanding that narrative is a tool of creation, that it is not who we are. We're remembering that we are not identified by narrative. We are remembering that we have always been a function, and that we have always existed as a function, as a functioning system, as a human functioning system. And we're also remembering in that, because now we are also letting go of the points of identity, which were and arose from narrative versus the actual truth of beingness. Now, I want to use the word truth lightly, because again, everything is interpretive, but this is something that has been coming through me, that was always intended to come through me, that has always been intended to be voiced by me at this period of time. And it is it's exciting. It's an exciting period of time for me, just because it was grueling. Like it was, and I gotta say, not all of it was grueling, but much of it, a lot of it was very much a work of an experience of will, like having the will to just keep going, to just keep moving, even in the midst of, what would appear to have been evidence to the contrary, that continuity itself, that continuity itself does exist. And continuity, not just continuity, by the way. I want to add coherent. I want to add the word coherent. Coherent continuity does exist beneath all of the noise. Beneath all of the noise, beneath all of the chaos that we are and have been experiencing. None of us have escaped it. You know, some of us have merged with it enough to, you know, to not be able to, you know, to resonate with, you know, conversations like these. But there are some of us who were intended to be here. We're intended to, with awareness, engage in this period of time of remembering exactly what it is that we are here and how it is that we exist as a unit, as a unified field. So, so what I will be doing is I'm going to be posting a first recording. Well, what I've done already is I've posted the last recording that I've had on this particular channel. I posted it as a first video to the Station of Light page. Only in that when I did listen to it again, I realized, okay, this was kind of where the emergence point started, when it pertained to me verbally introducing the Station of Light to you all. And so, you know, the next video will be one that I will be posting pretty soon. I'm hoping to do it within 1 to 2 weeks. I think it'll even be within 1 week. It'll be within 1 week. And, you know, I want to play around. Like, I want to just kind of see what comes through. It'll be channeled, and I just want to see what comes through, because at this point, it's all, you know, like I can't see the future, you know, so it's really kind of like no one can. We can only now be participants of the emergence that comes through when we all come together. So I offer, you know, what I can offer, and you know, I can't wait to see you all, you know, come in and add to that which I am presenting, and to utilize the Station of Light as a home of sorts, a home away from the noise. You know, that's really kind of why I created it in the first place, was because it is almost like a reflection. It's like a mirror of my experience here, of the surrounding structure, like the structure that I constructed, so that once you're able to enter into that space, then there's a boundary to that which now is allowed to emerge from that space. And okay, I think I've kind of said most of what's important to have been said at this period of time. And I also want to add that I do plan on coming on here on this particular page as well, because I have a feeling that the field to the other channel will be very different than, you know, how I present here. And I want to give myself the choices. I want to give myself the option to be able to explore the multifaceted ways in which I am now allowing myself to become visible to all of you. So, all right. Until next time, keepers of light, and thank you.